Hi friends, welcome to Law Chat with Girja. I'm Girja Patel, your host for Law Chat, and I am so excited for you to join us today. I have some amazing guests on Law Chat, and they're here to share their experiences and entrepreneurial journey with us, and through their storytelling, mentorship with us, because that is the whole point. We are all entrepreneurs and we're all on a journey, and learning from one another is the best way for us to move forward in our journey as well. And I have amazing guests who are so willing and ready to share their stories with us, their challenges and their victories and their achievements, and also their mindset. I just can't wait to share that with you, and I also just can't wait to have that conversation with them. It's such a privilege to have each and every one of them here with us today, and also it's such a privilege to have you listening in and tuning in. So let's dive in to Law Chat with Girja. Hi friends, welcome to Law Chat. Have you ever been called on stage or asked to perform, and then as you're walking on the stage, you're just feeling all the fright and the anxiety that comes into you? Well, if you have, it's very normal. And a lot of people also feel that, whether you're seasoned or not. And today on my show, I'm just so excited to have Marti MacEwan, because she's going to share with us all things about stage fright, how to overcome it, and her own personal journey about stage fright as well. She is a professional counselor, coach, speaker, trainer, and somebody who shares her stage fright cure method. She's also an author of the Stage Fright Cure, where she teaches her rapid relief process as well, which we will definitely be talking about later. Since developing her stage fright cure method, she has helped hundreds of musicians, speakers, leaders, writers, business people, and professionals. And we're just so lucky to have you on Law Chat today. Welcome, and I can't wait to dive into all things about stage fright.
Thank you so much. It's so wonderful to be here.
I'm just so happy. It's been a journey even to get you here, because so many things have happened in the process, even just right now, getting on this silly Zoom call with you. But I'm just so happy this has happened. And, I gave a very brief synopsis of all the things that you have done and your achievements. But I really want to talk about where this kind of started. Where did the whole journey begin for you that led you to now teach others about overcoming stage fright?
Yeah, it was a complete surprise to me, to tell you the truth. As you mentioned in the introduction, I've been a therapist for over 30 years. And about 15 years ago, I'm going to guess. Of course, I keep saying 15, so maybe it's a little longer. I decided just on a whim, just as an individual person, that I wanted to learn how to sing. And I don't mean sing in a choir. I mean, I wanted to be able to sing well enough that I could sing in front of people, like solo, not operatic or anything, but just to be able to sing in front of people and feel comfortable doing that. It had been kind of a secret desire of mine for
I love that.
years. And so I signed up for a voice lesson, because I didn't want to sing in front of people if I didn't know that I could actually sound okay, right? So I signed up for a voice lesson. A very nice teacher, and she had me do all the la la la's and all of that. And then she said, "Well, sing me something." And I couldn't. It was like I was just fine, and then all of a sudden, my heart was racing, and I was frozen in my tracks. I could hardly make a sound, and it just totally took me by surprise. And her too. She was a little worried. I don't know that she had anybody react that way in a voice lesson before.
Yeah.
But something came up in me suddenly that made me scared to, to sing in front of anybody else while they were looking at me expectantly, waiting for me to do something like sing. And it was awful. So she had a recital every 3 months. All of her students would get their friends and family together, and we would have to do these dinner theater things. So we're really up on a raised stage with all of those people out there with the white tablecloths and, the whole thing. And every single time I was a mess before I would go on stage, and my heart would race again, and my hands would be sweaty again, and my feet would be clammy again, and I'd be scared to death I wasn't going to be able to remember the words, all that stuff. Then Now, simultaneously, as a therapist, I had started to learn these techniques that are under the umbrella of energy psychology. Very specific techniques. And the premise of it is that if somebody's upset or somebody's not in a good place, not in a loving, warm, open place, maybe they're angry or they have post-traumatic stress or anxiety or depression, whatever it is, that therapists address for people, energy psychology addresses the acupuncture system and other energy systems. And lo and behold, what happens is it dismantles that reaction.
Oh, wow.
It's really quite something. And that's where the rapid relief process comes in that I'll talk about, as you mentioned later. But in terms of myself, I thought, maybe those energy psychology techniques that I'm already using in my office with other people would help me with my fear of singing. So I sat myself down in my own office and started using these very same techniques on myself while simultaneously thinking about, why am I so afraid of getting up and singing in front of someone, right? And then these memories would start to pop up. Oh, that thing that happened, or oh, that thing that happened.
Wow.
And I started to use the energy psychology techniques to dismantle the emotional energy that I had attached to those memories. And also the self-concept that comes from those things, right? Things happen to us and we decide who we are or who we aren't, or what's okay or what's not okay. And so as I continued to work with those old memories that came up, that fear of singing when in the real situations started to diminish. It's like I wasn't as scared. My heart wasn't racing as much. I wasn't worried about whether I was going to, not remember the lyrics or whatever. And so with time, I have to say, it wasn't just like that.
Yeah.
But with time, not only did I not feel so afraid and so miserable, but I also could sing better. Right?
Wow.
Because you can't sing very well when you're all scared and tense.
Yeah.
And worried about how you sound. So it all kind of came together. So that was an amazing revelation to me. And then we all know how many people, not exactly how many people, but we all know that lots and lots of people have some kind of fear in some kind of performing situation, right? So I started to work with, as you mentioned earlier, musicians and speakers and executives and students and all kinds of people, where people have to get up and do something in front of somebody else.
Wow. I think it's so fascinating, one, that you're using this energy to basically break down the barriers that we're setting for ourselves, but really going to the root of the cause rather than just the superficial fixing of it. Yeah. And then also, I think it's so cool that you actually applied it to yourself. You recognized it and you're like, okay, let me apply this to myself. Now, just kind of going back a little bit, as a lawyer, and I was a litigator also, there is absolute fear going into court sometimes. Not sometimes, all the time. You walk in and my biggest fear was actually doing jury selection. It was just a lot of anxiety would come into me at that time. And it was weird. But I also got, advice from a very seasoned attorney that said, if you do not feel the butterflies, if you do not feel the stress, something is wrong with you. You should feel it. You should have a little of that stress and not a lot, not the way where you're feeling debilitated, but where it's kind of a little stressful. And because that just shows that you're not getting too relaxed. You're not getting complacent with what you're doing, at least as in that environment. But when you were, you wanted to sing, and I think it's so cool that you're like, I'm going to pursue this love of mine that I've had, this, desire that I've always had. And then when you were trying to sing in front of others, did you ever sing in that first recital, or did you have to wait because you were going through the process of healing those debilitating fears?
Oh, I pushed through. I
Amazing.
did. And the first incident wasn't a recital, it was the lesson. It was just a lesson. But I pushed through those recitals.
Yeah.
I don't think I sang very well. But it was just my friends and family, and everybody knew we were on a learning curve. So that
Right.
helped.
Right.
Certainly. It wasn't a professional performance, thank goodness, right?
Right, right. So, but what were some of the mindsets that you also had to shift? I mean, just the fact that you are also applying a methodology that you're using in your therapy practice, but what was that mindset that had to kind of shift at the time for you to even say, hey, I need to be my own patient right now or my own client?
Boy, mindset. I don't know if you've had this experience, but it's like I was either going to get over this or quit, right?
Mm.
Because
I know what you're saying.
who needs to be an amateur singer, for gosh sakes? I mean, nobody needs to. but there was some pull, right? And I don't know that I could say mindset. To me, a mindset is an attitude or a chosen way of thinking about something, right? It was a pull. And then it became kind of a fascination with, will this work, right? Can I get over this? And then to watch it take its positive toll, right? And to start to see the results of it, then it got kind of exciting. Say, well, wow, gosh, this is cool. This is how far can I go with? So I think that with the mindset, it wasn't so much like I sat down and analyzed my mindset and changed my mindset. It was a much more organic kind of process than that for me. And I certainly understand the value of doing that. This was more, I needed to change my whole orientation, my whole physical, mental, and emotional orientation, basically to who I thought I was. I mean, part for me, well, this might dovetail with mindset. Part of it for me was I didn't grow up the popular kid, right? I didn't grow up the student body president or the whatever. I was kind of on the outskirts, kind of kind of a wannabe, sort of watching, watching everybody else do their thing. And so I had myself, for reasons I could go into that I won't, but they're not, not horrible reasons, but just that I didn't have myself front and center. And so for me to put myself front and center, which I have to if you're going to sing by yourself in front of a group of people, to put myself front and center like that, I think there was an inherent conflict between who I perceived of myself to be and what was being asked of me in that situation. I think that's a lot where imposter syndrome, in fact, comes from.
Yes.
So in a sense, I had imposter syndrome in that regard.
Right.
So that's mindset, but it goes way beyond the mind. It's your whole energetic, emotional orientation, about who you are and what you can or can't do, or what's okay for you or what isn't.
I love that. You didn't give up. And I think earlier you said it was either I move on with this or I give up. I just let it go. And I think that option of not giving up was not an option. It was kind of like you were trying to prove to yourself also and being resilient to overcome whatever might have been the cause of not being able to move forward. I hate to interrupt this awesome conversation, but I have to stop and talk with you about the number one thing I'm asked about by entrepreneurs: contracts. They're vital to any business relationship and to protect your business. But I also know that entrepreneurs, especially when you're starting up, money is tight. But I would never want you to compromise on a strong legal foundation. So enter yourcontractbuddy.com, a website created by me with contract templates created and drafted by me and fellow industry partners. They're ready to use and easy to plug in immediately. And they are not restricted to any specific state. So yourcontractbuddy.com is sponsoring this episode, and you and your listener can get 10% off right now with code LAWCHAT. Yes, you heard me right. 10% off right now with code LAWCHAT. And now back to our awesome conversation. And I like how you said the energy orientation. Is that something that you use in your practice? Is that something how you apply when you're helping others overcome stage fright? And so let's talk a little bit about that. What is that actually? I want to learn. I think that is so cool.
Well, I kind of made up the term right then, energy.
Oh, well, coin it. It is
but
good.
I like it.
Coin it. It is good.
Well, the thing is that in the basic theory of energy psychology, which is certainly not new with me, it doesn't originate with me. It actually originates with a guy named Dr. Roger Callahan, who in the 80s and 90s made the connection between our emotional psychological state and our energy state.
Mm-hmm.
And what he initiated, I guess I want to say, is techniques that change the energy state first. And then your psychological and emotional and physical responses change naturally from that. So here's a story. When I was studying with Roger Callahan way back then, I was in a class where we were learning the very basics of this theory and technique. And I was paired up with a woman who had a fear of heights. You know, and we therapists, we go to these conferences and trainings and we pair up with each other to try whatever we're learning. And I paired up with a woman who had a fear of heights, and it happened that outside of the meeting room was a gigantic stairway going down into an open area in this building. And she was scared to death to even stand at the top of the stairs. I mean, she truly had
Wow.
a fear of heights. So we tried this little technique. And as a matter of fact, I'll show it to you.
Okay.
Yeah, we tried this little technique. She was looking at the stairs and feeling the agitation of it, right? And the technique we were learning way back then, which is really the basic of the basic, it was to put some vibration into acupuncture points, certain acupuncture points. And in this case, right here, if you're familiar with acupuncture, this is K27. It's the last point on kidney meridian. And then under your armpits like this, which is the last point of spleen meridian. And right here, right under the tips of your collarbones, just right there, which is the last point on kidney meridian. So did I say kidney? I didn't mean stomach, spleen, and kidney. And so what we were taught in that class as an introduction was just these points, just to put a little vibration in there. A lot of the whole phenomenon of tapping.
Yes.
Or EFT, emotional freedom techniques, is a kind of a simplified version of energy psychology as a whole. There's way more to energy psychology than just that, but that's an overlap. And that idea of tapping in order to put vibration into an acupuncture point, it isn't the tapping just to tap. It's putting vibration into an acupuncture point, just like an acupuncturist would put a needle in there, right? So it's these 3 points that we were learning as a cure for phobias. Well, I did this with this woman, and every time we did it, she could get a little closer to the top of the stairs and a little closer to the top of the stairs, and she was going, whoa. She wasn't feeling the same fight, flight, or freeze response, the same fear response. So by the time we got done, she was walking up and down those stairs, and her brain was going, what? Her brain is the last to catch on. It's like her whole system had shifted.
Yeah.
Because we were doing this energy intervention. And
That's
then
so amazing.
Her emotions and her thoughts and her perceptions changed like a domino effect almost, if you want to say. So that's the whole idea of it. And then it has evolved into a much more robust and complex.
Right. That is so impressive. I have seen tapping. I actually never understood it until just kind of now. So thank you for that. Because, you hear people say, oh, tap, tap. And you're like, I don't understand this. Why are we tapping? But I do believe
and unfortunately, just to interrupt for a moment on that point, is that unfortunately that's one of the reasons people kind of go, they don't understand what it is or what it's doing. They're just learning this technique, and maybe it works in that moment and maybe it doesn't, but then they write it off because it's silly. But it isn't silly. It isn't silly at all. It's very effective.
That is very true, actually, because it is still something which you might have known about this for so long, but I feel like the masses don't. And this is something that's still up and coming. And I say that in quotes because it's been around for a while. A lot of these things have been around for a very long time in different cultures also. And now the Western world is really seeing it more, even though it's been around for hundreds of years. And so I think this is so cool.
Thousands.
Right.
Yeah.
And it does seem like a little voodoo sometimes, but it's really not. It actually makes sense. The science of the body and the energies all make sense. And I truly believe in it. So why don't we, let's talk a little bit more about how you have applied that teaching into stage fright cure and how you are helping others overcome their fears. And not just on the stage, I think, right? You help others, a lot of fears that they overcome. So let's talk a little bit about that and learn some more.
Okay. So starting with that premise that intervening with the energy first then has a cascade effect on how you think and feel and how you perceive and how you would describe your experience. So Stephanie Eldringhoff, who's also a therapist, and I have been looking at all kinds of ways to do that, not just tapping on meridians, but all kinds of ways to intervene with the energy system first with whatever somebody's troubled by, whether it's minor or major. So we have put together a 7-step set of exercises, right? And called it the rapid relief process. And what the exercises are is a combination of the best of things we've learned from other people and some routines that we formulated ourselves. So I teach a class, it's free, everybody. I teach a class called Rapid Relief from Stress and Distress. And as you said, it's not just about stage fright, it's about anything that somebody wants to feel better about, basically. Something they want to get over, something they want to feel more comfortable anticipating, something that's going on in their lives right now, you know. And so they come to the class to learn the rapid relief process, but also apply the rapid relief process to whatever it is that happens to be going on for them. And it has ranged from stage fright, for sure, you know, singing or music or speaking or whatever that might be, but also things like, so in the class, people pick something to work on, as you can tell, and they label it. We don't talk about it. It's not about problem solving. It's not talk therapy in any way, because all people do, they don't even talk about it with each other or even expound on what it is they just come up with a little phrase that represents it to themselves. Like, oh, I'm going to think of some, like one was what happened in Chicago, right? Something happened to this person in Chicago and it was bothering that person. And so that's what they decided to use the rapid relief process for. Or argument with Bob, you know. So it's just a very brief label that means something to that person. And then in the class, I take people through each of the steps of the rapid relief process, and then they report to me in the chat what this change was that they felt. I have about 200 now feedbacks like that, you know, individual feedback about what happened to people when they did that. And like, I'm going to say 99.9% of people went from an intensity level, or, you know, how much does something bother them, from like 8, 9, 10 down to like 0, 1, 2 in the course of just the class itself. And then I send people a video so they have the techniques to use on their own for other things.
So impressive. And all of that, the link to that rapid relief process will also be in the show notes for anybody wanting to do it. But quickly, if we can just...
But it's very simple. It's rapidrelief.com.
Oh, perfect. And then if we can kind of go through the 7 steps and just, if you want to just bullet point them.
That would be very difficult to do.
Oh, would it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because it's a combination. Each step is a routine, right? So it's a combination of, there are some stimulation of acupuncture points.
Okay.
There is some taking advantage of left brain, right brain integration.
Okay.
There is some expanding of your auric field. There is some working with the chakras in certain ways. There are all kinds of different things that we address, all kinds of different aspects of your energy system and ways to strengthen and correct your energy system in each of the exercises. So to go through all of the exercises right now would be time consuming, and I don't know that people
Well, we're going to go to your link and we're going to figure it out because I'm excited. I'm really keen to learn more about it too. So I encourage everybody to go into the show notes. And what is it again? Is Rapid Relief?
RapidRelief.com. RELIEF. Lots of times people call it rapid release. No, not rapid release. I always think rapid release to me sounds like some kind of mechanical device that you use. No, rapidrelief.com. And if people are interested in specifically the performance aspect of this, then stagefright.com is my website for that.
I love that. So it's kind of shifting the gears a little bit. Like, you know, we've learned a little bit about how you walk your clients through the process of releasing some of the stress and overcoming the things that are limiting them. But why is it so important to be able to do it the way you're doing it rather than some other method? And, you know, the method could be just superficial even, but what is it that you're doing that really helps people really tackle it at the roots?
Yeah. You know, there are lots of ways that people can address their stage fright, and probably lots of ways that work, right? Like you talked about mindset earlier. Here's an example. I didn't work with this woman. It was just when I was interviewing people for my book about did they get over stage fright and how did they do that, right? This woman said she was a singer-songwriter, and she said she had a revelation one time, like not a spiritual revelation, but just like an aha moment. And she realized, someone said very casually to her, well, you know, not everybody likes the same kind of music, right? Well, everybody knows that not everybody likes the same kind of music. That was not new news, but somehow it hooked into her mind. Then she realized that what she'd been doing in her performing was to try to win everybody over to her music. She thought she had to make everybody in the audience like the music that she was offering, right? And that was causing her a lot of agitation and fear because the stakes got so high, right? And part of her brain was thinking about, you know, everybody's got to like this music, and it got in her way to think about it that way. Well, her mindset shifted when she heard somebody say, not everybody likes the same kind of music. And she went, oh, not everybody's going to like my music. Oh, well, then I'll just play for the people who like my kind of music. And the rest of them, oh, well. And for some reason, it was just the switch that worked for her. Right. And so there's all kinds of things. In the book, I also have a whole section on ways to do that kind of thing, as well as work with your energy. But I really think that, to answer your question, a lot of what is in the 10 tips for getting over stage fright articles is superficial and doesn't make a difference. So the people that I work with often are people who've done a lot of things to try to get over this stage fright, and it just hasn't budged for them. You know, if somebody can get over stage fright, there's a whole thing about turn your fear into excitement, right? On a dime, just turn your fear into excitement. Your brain doesn't know the difference. Well, your brain does know the difference between fear and excitement. But if that idea works for somebody, then yay, absolutely. But not all of those things do, in fact.
Yeah, I can see that. And I do believe going to the root is far more beneficial than just superficial. I mean, you hear people say, oh, pretend that everybody is naked, or, I'm like, no, that does not work,
Now,
actually.
how is that going to help?
Work. That doesn't work. That's so funny. So just talking a little bit about your business and how you have adapted, these methods into your business. What have you received any pushback or any challenges when you are, or especially when you first started, when you were trying to implement this method in your therapy sessions?
Well, when Stephanie Eldringhoff, as I said, is the co-developer of the rapid relief process, she and I started studying with Roger Callahan decades ago, and we've stayed together and compared notes. When we first learned that, the first technique that I shared with you earlier, we went back to our offices, and we're fond of saying we tried it out on the clients who already loved us. because it is a little strange, so it was, I mean, it's unfamiliar. Let's say unfamiliar is a better word.
Yeah.
So what happened for both of us was that our clients who were willing to experiment, I mean, it isn't harmful, none of this,
No.
It can be harmful, so, but people were willing to see if it would do anything, gave us the feedback that it was. So I think my trust in it started to develop, and I think Stephanie would say the same, started to develop, not because we just leapt into faith that this was a great thing, but because our clients repeatedly said, oh, I feel different. Oh, well, that changes my way of thinking about it, or, oh, I can see that from a different perspective, or that doesn't seem so important anymore, or whatever the feedback was from them. It was really making instantaneously a difference in the way that they were thinking and feeling. And so that was the feedback that built our trust in it. And then we kept adding things, as we went along.
Well, that's a great strategy to get your favorite clients who loved you. But I think that's nice, though. I think that what's really good about that is, a lot of times we're always trying to do market research, whether it's something new that we're bringing in, but it's great advice to strategize in the way where you are actually targeting the people that you really work well with, that can actually are more willing to explore ideas because they trust you already, and they trust your wisdom, and they trust what you have to say. So I think that's a great strategy there. So that worked really well.
And we had to learn to trust. We had to learn to trust it, because if we were going to offer something for people's well-being, we wanted to make darn sure that it was it wasn't just woo-woo. It's not. It just isn't.
Right. And what about in the industry? Have you received pushback from there, or any challenges? And then how did you overcome them, if you had any?
I didn't really personally. I think that there is in the broader field of psychology, especially in traditional psychoanalytic theory or academic psychology. I think there's still a resistance to acknowledging that the results that we get, we really get, and they really are attributable to what we're doing. So it's like any innovator. I'm not going to say I'm the innovator of energy psychology, but certainly any innovation or innovator experiences skepticism and particularly a reluctance of the status quo in whatever field to be open to something that's so unfamiliar and so new.
Yeah. I mean, it's essentially like you're kind of disrupting your industry also by adding this element and this way and technique of helping others. And I think anytime you are disrupting any type of industry, anybody, there is going to be some pushback, but
pushback and skepticism, right?
Yeah. So how do you, I know you said that you didn't personally feel it, but how would you what would be your advice to somebody who is feeling that or who is getting a lot of pushback, but they still believe in what they're doing? So what would be your advice on helping them push forward?
Find people who are in alignment, right? I think that would be right off the bat. Do what we did, which is to test out your theory and come up with some tangible evidence that what you're doing has real world implications. Like I was saying, I have like 200 people from classes I taught live and these classes that I'm doing online, direct feedback from them about the palpable and immediate shifts in their experience. Now, if I just had one person saying, "Oh gosh, it was great," it wouldn't, nobody would pay any attention. But this is like something people can look at and say, "Oh, this really does this." So that's what I would say. Persevere, but also persevere knowing that, first of all, you can't do it by yourself. This is a whole field of energy psychology that's grown up over the last 25, 30 years. And there's a professional organization called the Association for Comprehensive Energy Psychology, which I'm happy to say Stephanie and I are teaching the rapid relief process.
Wow,
as
congratulations.
training, and it's been a long time in the making.
That's awesome.
So anyway, I want to say to your audience, if any of you are mental health practitioners or allied health practitioners or health practitioners, please go to the Association for Energy Psychology website, which is energypsych.org, and have a look at the conference. It's going to be really, really good. And Stephanie and I are going to be presenting the rapid relief process.
Wow, that's incredible. And congratulations. Because that just shows like industry proof also when you are teaching your own peers. And that's just so excellent. So before we wrap up, I wanted to quickly ask you, right now for people, if they are in the middle of challenges or things that they have identified, okay, this is a fear of mine. Aside from going to your website, which I absolutely encourage everyone to do that, what would be some like maybe top 3 tips on helping them move forward?
The first thing to do is and this is the way my book is organized, is get objective about it. So you're going, oh, I have this response in myself. It isn't me. It isn't a character flaw. It's not, it's not a weakness. It's a reaction that for some reason is happening in my system. And it takes me over, like it's big and it's not something that's rational most of the time. But the first step is to get objective about it and go, oh, I get it. I have this reaction. The second is, of course, that leads you to be able to figure out what to do about it. The second tip falls under the category of create safety for yourself, because it's your amygdala in your brain that really is triggering this response in you. So what you want to do is to create a safe sense of where you are and what you're doing, so the amygdala doesn't fire off. And then there's a whole bunch of stuff. There's physical strategies, mental strategies, situational strategies you can use consciously to create safety for your amygdala, right? Like the shift in mindset with that singer-songwriter I talked about earlier, shifting her mental set about it created safety. It was safe now because not everybody was going to like her music anyway. She didn't have to work hard to make everybody like her music. So shifts like that certainly they create safety for your brain, right? And then thirdly, I highly recommend that people learn the rapid relief process because it can both dismantle that reaction physiologically, and it also can strengthen positive attributes, positive things, courage and confidence and self-expression, and all of those positive things are also in your energy. And so you can use the rapid relief process to enhance the positive as well as to bring down whatever you perceive as being bothersome.
Love it. I love objective, be objective about it, recognize it, be objective about it, create a safety space for yourself. And of course, the rapid relief process.
And work with your energy,
And
right?
work with the energy. Love it. Love it. Thank you so much for sharing all the insight that you have. And I'm actually going to look into it myself and see what it's all about. Yeah, really excited to do that. Before we wrap up though, this is Law Chat. And so I always somehow forget to ask about the law stuff because I get so engrossed in the story and the journey. And I know I asked you this earlier, if you ever experienced any legal issues, but is there anything that you are doing to in your practice where you are using the law as part of your business or something, whether it's contracts or
certainly HIPAA.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a licensed therapist, have been for many, many years, before HIPAA ever existed. So it was a big change for all of us to really have to be so exacting and careful about people's privacy. So the rapid relief class is confidential. The support groups that come out of that are confidential. All of my work with people about performance fears and stage fright is confidential for those reasons. So I because I'm licensed, I go along with all of those guidelines.
That's so important to know, actually, because sometimes people are even scared to share because they don't want others to find out. So
isn't that something? Somebody was asking me that just yesterday. What about it's just such a taboo subject. It's something that you don't, so many people experience some form of performance fear, and yet it's so hard to be truthful and open and honest about it because people have, in fact, regarded it as a character flaw, as a weakness.
As a weakness.
Yeah, when really, I mean, I don't think most people would say, I have a fear of spiders, right? But it's kind of in the same category, but it has so many more implications.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
So for your audience, if you're experiencing performance fears of any kind, you're not alone.
It's very normal, very normal. Even for the most experienced performer, whether you're a speaker, performing artist, anybody, it's very
you read
normal.
About all these famous people who have suffered with stage fright.
Yeah, it's absolutely normal.
I want to go quickly back to what you said about people who say that, like you were saying, that if you don't have some nerves going into something, that that there's that's a bad sign. One of the things that I also comment on in my book was what I call stage apathy. It's like, you don't want stage fright. That's for sure.
Yeah.
But there's also stage freedom. And then there's stage flight. Like, oh boy, here we go, But stage apathy is what they're talking about. Because yes, partly because if you don't have some built up energy, it looks like you don't care. Right. And if in jury selection or in presenting a case or whatever it might be, you want people to get that you care on an energetic level. So anything we do for other people takes energy, but it doesn't take fear.
Right. I love that. And I love how that's right. It's stage apathy because you're just, I think what this attorney was sharing is that confidence is good, but don't be so overconfident that you just walk in there and you kind of lose the jury because they also don't care for you anymore because you're showing that you don't care. And that's truly there. That makes so much sense.
Or they go, well, they don't like you because you coming across like cocky or overconfident or something.
Yeah, absolutely. But that's so true. Like apathy is not also, there's no room for that as well.
I agree.
Well, thank you so much. And I know we were talking about some of your favorite stuff. And so we're just going to ask you, what's your favorite movie?
The Philadelphia Story.
Oh, I've not seen that.
Oh, you have to see it. It's really old. It's a classic. The Philadelphia Story. It's wonderful.
Okay, well, I'll check into that. Thank you so much for being here. How can the audience connect with you? How can they reach out to you?
Stagefright.com is my main website about performance fears, and rapidrelief.com is about the rapid relief from stress and distress class. Those are the most direct ways, and then there's a contact link in those websites.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for sharing all your wisdom with us. And I encourage everybody to go and check Marti out.
Thank you.
Thanks.
It's been so fun to chat with you.
Thank you so much for joining Law Chat with Girja. I love these kind of stories and conversations where we can be real, honest, and open, and having fun at the same time. I hope you are inspired and motivated to keep doing the amazing work you are doing. If this is something that gave you all those feels and then some, truly motivated and inspired for you, you can show your love in all or one of these ways. Be sure to give this video a thumbs up, subscribe, and share this video with your community and tell them about it, or share with somebody that can benefit from it. I look forward to seeing you next time on another episode of Law Chat, and until then, keep moving forward. Bye.